Once upon a time, the kingdom of Kamar thrived under the wise rule of Sultan Khalid, a ruler respected far and wide. His people loved him, for he governed with fairness and kindness. Khalid had one beloved daughter, Princess Yasmin. Known for her beauty and kindness, her laughter brought joy to all, and her wisdom surpassed that of many elders. Many noblemen sought her hand, each one hopeful to stand beside her as the future ruler of Kamar. But despite the endless stream of suitors, Yasmin found none to capture her heart. Her spirit was free and wild, her heart longing for something more than the mundane ritual of courtship with strangers from foreign lands. Yasmin's beauty and virtue became renowned across many lands, and with each passing year, more suitors arrived, bringing gifts of gold, rare jewels, and exotic spices, hoping to win her favor. Yet Yasmin turned each one away with gentle grace, hiding a sadness only a few could see. She longed for a love that understood her spirit and dreams, a bond beyond politics and alliances. She dreamed of adventure, of exploring the vast desert beyond her kingdom, of meeting someone who could match her soul's desires. One day, on the eve of her 18th year, Yasmin rode her horse deep into the desert, feeling the urge to escape the palace walls. Her mind raced with thoughts of her destiny, her yearning for something more, and the unending expectations placed upon her. The desert stretched before her, a vast and open expanse that seemed to mirror the emptiness she felt within. But as she rode further, an unexpected sandstorm arose, fierce and powerful. The winds howled, swirling sand around her, making it impossible to see or hear. Yasmin struggled to keep her horse steady, but the storm overtook them. Alone and frightened, she wandered through the storm, hoping for any sign of shelter. The storm seemed relentless, its power far beyond anything she had experienced. For hours, she wandered through the desert, her strength fading as the sun began to set behind the dunes. Just as her hope began to wane, she stumbled upon a hidden oasis, a glimmer of green among the endless gold. Palm trees stood tall around a clear pool of water, their leaves swaying gently in the breeze as if welcoming her. Yasmin knelt by the water's edge, drinking deeply and feeling a newfound strength. As she rested, a shadow appeared, moving silently through the palm trees. Yasmin looked up to see a figure cloaked in dark robes, his eyes as deep and mysterious as the night itself. This was Sorcerer, a powerful sorcerer who lived beyond the reach of the kingdom, known for his abilities to control the winds, speak with animals, and see beyond the veil of time. Sorcerer was feared by many in the kingdom, his powers were rumored to be limitless, and his presence was often associated with danger. Some said he could transform into a hawk and soar across the desert, others believed he could command the elements. Yet, despite these tales, he was also respected, for he had helped the kingdom through times of famine and drought, guiding the people of Kamar when hope seemed lost. As Yasmin looked into his eyes, she felt no fear. Instead, she was captivated, drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain. Sorcerer, too, was struck by her presence, sensing a kindness and strength that went beyond the surface. They shared a silent connection in that hidden oasis, a bond that transcended the physical world, a feeling of knowing each other beyond words. Yasmin felt a sense of peace she had never known, while Sorcerer found his heart stirred in a way he hadn't felt in years. From that day forward, Yasmin found herself drawn back to the oasis, slipping away from the palace whenever she could. Each time she arrived, Sorcerer would be there, waiting for her. As the weeks passed, their connection deepened, growing from friendship into a love that neither of them had ever known. They shared stories, dreams, and fears, and with each meeting, their bond grew stronger, defying the rules of both their worlds. However, as their love blossomed, Yasmin's absences did not go unnoticed. Omar, the royal vizier, had long held suspicions about the princess's secret excursions. Omar was loyal to Sultan Khalid but also ambitious, keen to secure his own position and protect the kingdom's traditions. He watched Yasmin closely, noting her late-night absences and the spark of joy in her eyes upon her return. One night, he followed her into the desert, watching from the shadows as she met with Sorcerer at the oasis, her face aglow with love. Horrified by the sight of the princess consorting with a sorcerer, a man feared and misunderstood by the people, Omar returned to the palace and informed Sultan Khalid of his discovery. The Sultan was heartbroken, for he had hoped his daughter would one day marry a noble and secure the future of Kamar. Yet he felt betrayed and conflicted. He knew Yasmin's happiness was important, but the thought of her consorting with a man of forbidden magic was too much to bear. After much deliberation, Sultan Khalid issued a decree. Sorcerer, the sorcerer, was declared an enemy of the kingdom, a threat to the royal bloodline and the peace of Kamar. Guards were sent into the desert to capture him, but Sorcerer was prepared. Sensing the danger, he vanished into the sands, leaving Yasmin with a broken heart. Desperate to find him, she searched the desert for days, but he was nowhere to be found. As time passed, a shadow fell over the kingdom. A severe drought swept through Kamar, drying up rivers, withering crops, and bringing hunger to the people. The skies remained cloudless, the rains absent, and the land grew weary. Whispers spread that the drought was a curse, a punishment for Yasmin's forbidden love. People believed that Sorcerer, the forsaken sorcerer, had called upon dark powers to punish the kingdom for their betrayal. Seeing her people suffer, Yasmin made a choice. She would seek out Sorcerer, the only one who could save her kingdom. Against her father's wishes, she ventured into the desert alone, braving the scorching heat, the wild storms, and the treacherous dunes. For days and nights, she traveled, guided only by the memory of their hidden oasis and the strength of her love. Finally, after countless hardships, she found herself before a cave hidden by enchanted vines, deep within the mountains. Inside, Sorcerer awaited her, his heart both sorrowful and yearning. Though he had been hurt by the kingdom's betrayal, his love for Yasmin remained unshaken. She pleaded with him to return and save her people, promising him freedom and a chance for them to live together, far from the eyes of the kingdom. Sorcerer, moved by her courage and love, agreed to help. Upon their return to Kamar, the kingdom was on the brink of ruin. Fields lay barren, and the people were weak with thirst. Sultan Khalid, seeing his daughter's determination and the sacrifice she had made, reluctantly agreed to Sorcerer's condition, that he be allowed to live with Yasmin in peace, far from the palace and free from persecution. With a heavy heart, Khalid accepted. Standing before the people, Sorcerer raised his hands to the sky, calling upon the spirits of the desert. Thunder rumbled, and dark clouds gathered above. Rain began to fall, drenching the earth and filling the rivers once more. The people rejoiced as the land came back to life, crops sprang up, and animals returned to graze. Kamar was saved, and Sorcerer became a hero in the eyes of the people. But as time went on, the Sultan grew restless. Though he had allowed Yasmin and Sorcerer their freedom, the shame of his daughter's forbidden love weighed heavily on him. The people had accepted Sorcerer, but Khalid's pride would not allow him to forget. Late one night, he ordered his soldiers to capture Sorcerer, intending to execute him at dawn to rid his family of the stain of magic and to protect the kingdom from future curses. Yasmin, hearing of her father's betrayal, rushed to Sorcerer's side. Together, they fled into the desert under the cover of darkness, leaving Kamar behind forever. They traveled deep into the wilderness, where no one could find them, and eventually found a hidden valley surrounded by mountains, a place untouched by man. Here, they built a sanctuary, a place where magic and humanity could coexist in peace. Over the years, people from distant lands heard tales of a hidden valley where a wise sorcerer and his beloved princess lived, a place of peace and harmony. The valley grew into a thriving village, and Yasmin and Sorcerer's love became a legend. It was said that every spring, a gentle wind would blow from the desert, carrying with it the scent of wildflowers and the sound of laughter, a reminder of a love that had defied kingdoms and transcended worlds. Years went by in the valley of Ulkorf Ulmafgud, where Princess Yasmin and Sorcerer lived a life filled with both tranquility and purpose. Villagers who had once fled from hardship or cruelty in distant lands now had a new home. Guided by Yasmin's wisdom and Sorcerer's powerful connection to the magic of the earth, the valley had become a sanctuary for all who sought a better life. Yasmin, once accustomed to royal courts and their splendor, now embraced a simpler existence, helping those around her, planting fields, and sharing in the day-to-day joys and struggles of the valley's people. Yet despite the valley's peace, shadows of envy and greed still lurked beyond the enchanted borders. Sorcerer's magic, though used only for good, stirred the curiosity and jealousy of rulers who heard whispers of a hidden valley flourishing in abundance and harmony. Emir Basim, a neighboring ruler driven by ambition and greed, listened to these rumors with growing interest. He had always believed in expanding his power and wealth, and the idea of controlling such a place, where people spoke of nature's magic and a legendary sorcerer who could command the elements, became an obsession for him. For years, Basim searched for Ulkorf Ulmafkud, sending scouts and soldiers to scour the deserts and mountains. But Zafar's enchantments, strong and ancient, kept the valley hidden from those with ill intentions. Frustrated, Basim sought out seers, sorcerers, and wise men, offering riches in exchange for any clues that might reveal the valley's location. Eventually, he came upon a forbidden artifact, a dark talisman rumored to have the power to pierce through any magical protection. With the talisman in hand, Basim felt invincible. He gathered his army and set out across the desert, following the faint, elusive trails left by wayfarers and pilgrims who had once stumbled upon the valley. After days of grueling travel, battling sandstorms and blistering heat, Basim and his soldiers finally breached the magical barrier and beheld the valley's beauty for the first time. The valley of Ulkorf Ulmafkud was lush and green, filled with flowers and trees that flourished in the rich, dark soil. Rivers sparkled under the sun, and birds sang freely in the trees. At the valley's heart stood Yasmin and Zafar's home, a humble dwelling, woven with vines and covered with bright, flowering plants. Around it, fields of crops and medicinal herbs stretched out, carefully tended by the villagers who called this place home. Basim's soldiers, awed by the valley's beauty, felt an unexplainable hesitation, but Basim pushed forward, his greed blinding him to the valley's delicate magic. When word of Basim's arrival reached Yasmin and Zafar, the villagers were stricken with fear. They had lived in peace for so long, believing that the valley was protected from the outside world. But Yasmin, with the bravery of her royal blood, calmed their hearts. She reminded them of all they had built together and assured them they would stand together to defend their home. Zafar, though powerful, was deeply worried. He knew that the talisman Basim held was strong and could potentially weaken the protective enchantments around the valley. As Basim's army approached, Yasmin and Zafar worked tirelessly to protect their people. Zafar called upon the spirits of the valley, summoning fierce winds and towering sand walls to disorient the approaching soldiers. Villagers, armed only with their determination, aided by Yasmin's strength, defended their homes with courage, using whatever they had to repel the intruders. But Basim, holding the talisman aloft, managed to break through Zafar's elemental defenses. With each step, the talisman's dark magic drained Zafar's powers, weakening his connection to the valley's spirits. Yasmin, seeing her beloved faltering, took up her father's sword, an ancient weapon that had been passed down through generations of her family. Though she had never wielded it in battle, she held it high, its gleaming blade a symbol of her determination to protect all she loved. As the battle continued, Yasmin's bravery inspired the villagers to fight with everything they had. Zafar, though weakened, drew on the last reserves of his strength, chanting ancient spells and summoning creatures of the forest to defend the valley. Birds circled above, their cries filling the air, while foxes and wild dogs charged from the shadows, nipping at the heels of Basim's soldiers. In a final, desperate move, Basim tried to strike down Zafar with the talisman's dark energy, unleashing a wave of force so powerful that the earth itself trembled. Zafar, drained and unable to counter the blow, fell to his knees, his strength fading. Seeing this, Yasmin leapt forward, blocking the talisman's blow with her father's sword. The clash of energies was so intense that it sent a shockwave across the valley, knocking down soldiers and villagers alike. As the dust settled, Basim's soldiers, seeing their leader disarmed and weakened, lost their resolve. One by one, they laid down their weapons, overcome by a strange peace that seemed to emanate from the valley itself. The villagers, now standing side by side with Yasmin and Zafar, drove Basim and his remaining forces out of the valley, forcing them to retreat back into the harsh desert. In the days that followed, Yasmin and Zafar tended to the wounds of their people, restoring the valley to its former peace. Though exhausted, Zafar's powers slowly returned, but he knew that the valley's safety had been compromised. The dark magic of Basim's talisman had left a scar, a weak spot in the valley's enchantment that even Zafar's strongest spells could not fully repair. Realizing that the outside world would never cease to desire the power and beauty of Ulkorf Ulmafkud, Yasmin and Zafar decided to cast one final, powerful spell. Together, they performed a ritual at the heart of the valley, calling upon the spirits of the land, the water, and the wind. They poured their love, their hopes, and their very essence into the spell, weaving a barrier so strong that only those with pure intentions could ever find the valley again. Those driven by greed or malice would see nothing but endless desert, doomed to wander in circles until they turned back. The spell left Yasmin and Zafa weakened, yet their spirits remained intertwined with the valley they loved.